my car, as of right now, it's in the top 5 fastest all-wheel drive Hondas mile-an-hour wise. There's only 2 people that have been faster at right now. Ostrom and Speed Factory. At the level of what the car is, nobody else drives their car like this. Part of me is like, yeah, I want to go street race. And then I'm like, do I really though? Like, a lot of people know this car, so it's like it shows up. It's like there might not be anyone who wants to race it.
You went 7.7, you said?
It's been 771 at 192. That pass was probably the most like emotional, fun pass I've ever had.
Yeah.
And then it won, and it was the most exciting pass I've ever had.
Welcome back to another episode of the Street Alpha Podcast. I am your host, Tukes, and we have another episode here at World Cup Finals in Maryland. And today we're going to be interviewing Myles from English Racing, who has the fastest Integra, the world's fastest Integra, and Evo 10. Let's clap it up for Myles.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me today.
Clap too.
I was going to clap too. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Let me just clap. What are we doing?
So I know we've been talking for quite some time.
Yeah.
I reached out to you, I don't even know, like 2 months ago maybe?
Month and a half, 2 months ago. Yeah.
But you're like in Washington?
Washington State, so
yeah.
There might be a couple more of those.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that.
But
cool,
yeah, so Washington State, just north of Portland, Oregon, easiest way to say it, a couple hours south of Seattle. So,
right.
Yeah, Vancouver, Washington.
It was like perfect timing though, because you said you're going to Maryland. I was like, oh.
Yeah, well, I've kind of watched your podcast. I've watched a lot of them. I'm like, oh man, these guys are like really far away. So it's like, how am I gonna get? Not gonna ever get to that, see that or anything. And then you hit me up. I'm like, oh, that'd be awesome. Like, we'll figure out a way to make it happen. So here we are.
I think my guy Frank, he has a Supra, and he ended up tagging you in one of the posts. I think it was a 45. It was something Honda related. And he tagged you.
I think I don't remember what it was, but there was probably some shit talking there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something about being fast, and I don't remember. I
Yeah,
remember
something
it. Some sort of shit talking that brought me in. So yeah, that's probably what it was.
So now
someone was probably like, my friend's faster and tagged me or something.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So, but we can claim officially that you have the world's fastest.
Technically, as of right now, it's had the highest mile an hour in the quarter.
Oh, what'd you trap?
It's been 195, like 0.2 or something. So.
Yeah.
And it's been a 771, and I think the next quickest is like a 770, a high 770. Obviously, those are front-wheel drive cars. This is an all-wheel drive car,
right?
So it's it's hard to really compare them in that. And then when I used to do the half-mile stuff, this car's been as fast as 216 and a half mile. Which the half mile, you got to look at it as like you're racing on a shitty road, right? You're racing on an airport that has no VHT, no traction. Nothing like that. So like getting a car to hook and work there is pretty difficult. I think I went 213 front wheel drive there. Dude. And so when I made it all wheel drive, I was like, well, I should be able to go 220, 225, which you're kind of like, it's really fast in anything, let alone a 90s shitbox, So I ended up going 216, but I did have a pass that I went, it was the first time back out all wheel drive, and it like had the jitters, People say like, I never get nervous. You never do that, but you always have a little bit of nerves just kind of get to you. And and like I was shaking at the beginning of that one. Really? It was kind of weird because I had just like put the thing together and I had no clue what it was gonna do. And I'm like, man, this thing, everything went wrong that pass. Like the steering column is still factory tilt one, so it like fell down at like 280 miles an hour, and I'm like holding it. The hood's starting to raise, and I just like pulled the chute early. Well, pulled the chute at 223, and it went 215 that pass. So I'm pretty confident the thing would have gone 223 to 225 in the half. And if you want to compare that to like, let's call it a production car, like a Bugatti Veyron struggles to go 175 in the same distance.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
These like crazy stock, couple $1 million cars, like in that same scenario, they're going in the 170s in the same distance.
Dude, that is crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid what we're doing. Yeah.
So when you're going that fast though, like how do you even look down to see how fast you're going, or are you just like focused on the road?
No, I just kind of have an idea based on what gear I'm in and the RPM, like how fast I'm going. But you don't look at the speedometer. You don't look at it like that. You just kind of you're kind of making sure you're still going straight down the track or the airport in this aspect. Yeah.
That is wild.
And then like the next pass, it actually chucked a rod at 208. And I have a vent in my hood. Yeah. And it like completely covered the windshield with oil. And I've never slowed a car down faster in my life. Pulled the chute. It slowed down probably what felt like 4 or 5 seconds from 200 miles an hour, and pulled over to the side. It was smoking, and I didn't know if it was like on fire or what it was. So, that's probably been a pretty hairy moment because like you never know,
right?
So I've broken quite a few motors in the half mile. So right now it's kind of nice to not break motors, knock on wood. So yeah, the half mile is just really hard on stuff because you're in it for longer. I mean, double. And like the first time I went, I learned that you pretty much don't have enough oil at the end of a half mile unless you have more oil than
because
factory
of the temperature
capacity.
you're burning oil.
Not just that, just like the oil can't drain back. So when you have 5 quarts, quarter mile is enough. But when you go another half mile, so the first event I ever went to, half mile, I spun a rod bearing because I ran out of oil at the end of the track. So.
Well, these are things that you would only know in those shoes, right? Like,
exactly, yeah, and that's one of the reasons why now I have an 8-quart oil pan. Yeah, so yeah, things you learn over the years, yeah.
So this isn't your first car, though, right? Like this isn't a car that you started with and you.
No,
built?
I grew up in the Dominican Republic.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm fluent in Spanish, and the name Gringo came from obviously the whole story that I've ever been told is. The Americans came down there, who knows how long ago, and they saw green soldiers, and they're like, "Go, green, go!" So like that was the whole thing that I was told from all of these people. They're like Gringo, so everyone just called me Gringo.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, well, let's do it. I bought an Integra down there too, or should I say my aunt got me an Integra when I was like 15.
Yeah.
And just happened to be the same color down there, and I hated the color. And so I ended up switching it I painted it black. And so I had an Integra down in Dominican in like 05, 06.
Wow.
And then I left there and moved to Washington State in 05, 06 actually. The end of 06 after I graduated high school. So I was down in Dominican for like 5-6 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you're fluent in Spanish. You can
fluent in Spanish. I definitely speak Spanish now with a very hardcore American accent. Like I used to be like fluent in like Dominican everything, like 100%. But now I definitely don't speak it enough because where I'm at, like I only use it every once in a while, and so I actually probably speak more Spanish here in a weekend than I do the whole year combined.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So then obviously Gringo came from that, and Integra came from I had an Integra, so I put them together as Gringotegra, and so I think 05 with my first Honda Tech name, if any of the Honda guys might remember the Honda Tech days. HondaTech.com.
V20 VTech as well too.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So it was Gringotegra on all those, and it kind of just stuck. It worked.
So at that time when you had the Integra, are you heavy into street racing at all, or you were just like a track kind of person? So
in the Dominican, there was some street racing, and they didn't really care what you did anywhere down there. You know, I mean, it was a very slow car too. It was like a 16-second car.
Oh, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. These days, it's like, man, 16. I actually have this car. I have the original time slip of the first time I went to the track in this car.
Really?
It's 16.7.
You gotta send me that.
Yeah, I have a picture of it, and now I have it's crazy. It was like 15.7 at like 180 or 85 or 86 miles an hour. And now I have a time slip of a 770 at 180, 192.
Yeah.
So I've gained 100 miles an hour in the car.
That is
which is crazy to think about, that you've started off stock and end up where it is now.
Right.
So, yeah, it's half as fast too. So
that's impressive.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's been a long journey. I never expected the car to be where it was at. It was just I still drive the car. I like to just enjoy cars. And this one's been like let's enjoy it, and how far can we push certain levels.
Right.
Yeah.
And how is the street racing scene or the racing scene in Washington?
I would say very, very small.
Very small.
It's not like the East Coast that I see, like not at all. And I think a lot of the East Coast stuff comes from, I think the culture is different.
Yeah.
You have a lot of Latin culture in that area, and a lot of Islanders, and those guys have so much passion for racing that I miss that part of the Dominican.
Yeah.
Like the events down there were so cool because like they didn't care what you had. They didn't care what it was. They're just going to bet on a car going down the track faster. Yeah. And it's like they don't care. And I miss that part. We don't have that up there. I don't have that, So I do miss that, which is one of the reasons why I really love coming here too, is you get that culture back that you never get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I know the V8 no prep racing stuff's getting really big, but we don't have a lot of that up there. We really don't. The Northwest is kind of an area where you don't have a lot of good racing, unfortunately. There's races, there's a lot of tracks nearby.
Yeah.
But But the actual street racing is in the Northwest is pretty minimal. And also, too, it's like not like the weather's not very good for it half the year. So California is much bigger for it. Southern Cal, SoCal area.
Is the elevation higher over there where you at?
No, I mean, we're pretty much sea level.
Sea level.
We are. Yeah, there's areas that have high elevation, but not like Denver. Yeah, no,
right.
We're like
Denver,
1,000 feet at the most areas. Yeah, so it's pretty good. So yeah, our street racing scene's nothing compared to like what we see over here. Nothing to what I see on videos, like where they close down New Jersey, New York, wherever that 1-2 lanes that they close.
Mexico.
Wherever Mexico is, like I've like been dreaming one of those days. Like, you know, part of me is like, yeah, I want to go street racing, and I'm like, do I really though? Like, if something happens, like it's a car, got a lot of friends' names on the car, so I feel bad if I like. My biggest fear is always like I never have anyone in the car for any rides because the last thing I want to do is like kill a friend.
No, 100%,
and so I've had one friend of mine, Kevin, he's the only one that's ever been in my car up to like 200 when it was front wheel drive. Yeah, almost 200, 185. Yeah, that's about the most I've ever put in someone because I was like if I like kill a friend, like I feel like it'd be real difficult to deal with, you know.
No, 100%.
So I don't put anyone in it. I try not to. I've done some street testing and I wear a helmet. Yeah. Because it's like at the level this car is or some of these cars are, it's like you're going 150 miles an hour from a dead stop in 5.5 seconds. 5-6 seconds. So they get up to speed real fast these days. Like,
I know, it's crazy.
If it was a front wheel drive car, it wouldn't be quite as fast. But you make it all wheel drive, they just do they're fast. Yeah, they're really fast these days. Yeah.
So. When did you transition the car from a front-wheel drive car to an all-wheel drive car?
2021.
2021.
Beginning of 2021, I did it, and I showed up to Texas unannounced all-wheel drive, but it had a transmission issue at the time.
Okay.
Had a different manufacturer on it, and I should have done a lot better on preparing myself.
Yeah.
But I just assumed it was all going to work, and the dog rings were cut wrong, and so it would fall out wouldn't stay in gear in third.
What?
So I didn't. It's kind of a bummer. So I showed up there and then I announced it then. And then I kind of worked the entire year fixing this transmission, having issues. And just in the end, I'm like, I broke it at the last half mile event and literally the transmission shattered in pieces. And the beginning of 22, I'm like, I bought a PPG transmission and I raced all last year on the transmission. And so it's definitely been an upgrade in terms of staying together.
Yeah.
So there's little quirks still, that it still breaks, but I think that's just part of what we do as racers and racing is we're never going to not break something.
100%.
If you have a car that's not braking, you're definitely running it slower than it can, or you've overbuilt it so much to where, and you're running it like if this car was 1,000 horse, these cars would stay together so much better. As weird as it sounds, a 4-cylinder making 1,000 horsepower stay together. But if we can get them to live at 1,500, 1,000's definitely a lot easier.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is impressive. No, can you talk about the shop and how you
so
how you got involved?
We're mainly, so Lucas, he's over there somewhere. He started the shop out of his garage building DSM transmissions.
Really?
And then turned into motors, transmissions, and then it turned into this big shop. Dyno team, we got a dyno. There's 8 or 9 guys on payroll total. And we have probably 55 cars in the back lot. We're on a home business style in terms of like there's 3 of us live on property technically.
Okay.
I live next door. Lucas, the owner, lives on the exact property, and one of my other guys, Jeff, lives on the property next door. So it's like a compound. And then, like I said, we have 50 cars in the back lot that are constantly being cycled through, waiting for parts, waiting for customer authorization, building a car. I mean, anything from oil changes all the way on to obviously 7-second builds and whatnot. So primarily Nissan GTRs, Mitsubishi Evolutions, DSMs if someone wants to go to a restoration project, because that's what they all are these days.
Yeah.
And then Lucas has a R8 that we twin turbo with an ETS turbo kit. Motec ECU runs stock motor. It's running 820s right now at 78 miles an hour. So a good array of a lot of stuff. And we also assemble all our motors in-house. Machining gets done, and then we have a guy who's been building all the motors for 10 or 12 years at the shop right now. So the same guy assembles that motor. We have books with every motor, what it's done, what the clearance is, what rods, what pistons, what bearings. And we're pretty well known in the industry and the Evos and stuff as being, a pretty, for where we're at, surprisingly, a real good shop. So
do you so with DSMs, I remember back in the day, my friend is heavy into DSMs.
Yeah.
There was like a fast red one. Is that
So probably 1G or 2G. So
2G?
2G. So probably Devin Schultz from
Yes,
Houston. Yes,
that's
Houston.
a yes.
Devin still is the fastest.
Okay.
Yeah. Devin's very fast.
He is.
That car just still awesome to watch go down the track.
Yeah.
Still cool to see him. Still cool to see him stay with the car. I think he
Right.
does it because he likes doing it,
Yeah.
still. But yeah, Devin's still fast. He's been sixes now at like 215, almost 220. Yeah, we had the fastest DSM at one point, Jet Bush's. It had been a 737 back
2G
in
or 1G?
1G.
1G.
1G
was
auto.
it a Talon?
It was a Talon, yeah.
Okay.
It was Eagle Talon, yeah. And it had been 737 at like 185 or 6 back in like 15 or 16. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the time.
Yeah, it'd been a while ago, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty loud. Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, so
It's part of the experience.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Fired up here. It'd be
Yeah,
pretty.
you're good,
It'd
you're
probably
good.
be pretty loud. But yeah, so that was back in the day. It's been a while. I mean, that car got sold to a customer, and he street races it.
Really?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, does no prep and does a lot of street racing with it down in California.
Wow. Yeah,
They-
you don't see those cars
It got
anymore.
all the stickers pulled off of it. It's a really good car for
Yeah.
street racing. Excuse me. Yeah, auto DSM. You can make that car a 5.1, 5.2 car on the street. in
Yeah,
the
no,
eighth.
they're
Yeah.
fast. The problem is parts. I know my friend.
Parts are hard to get.
It's hard to get. Nothing available. So
That is
definitely
literally the hardest part is finding parts for them these days.
So, at the time when you were transitioning from front-wheel drive to all-wheel
Correct,
drive,
yeah.
what did you use from what Honda did you get the parts
Yeah,
from?
so thankfully, like the guys at Speed Factory,
Yeah.
good friends of ours, 2 hours north of us in Tacoma, Washington, they had built, I think, Jason Ostrom's car, all-wheel drive, 4-door. And so they used his car and developed a lot of parts that allowed me in the B-Series world, because the B-Series, there was a CRV, right? That was all we had that was
Yeah.
a B-Series that would made up. And then, so they built a billet bell housing, a billet transfer case, all of these parts. So it's based off of a 99 Civic or Honda CRV, basically. And it has a Wagavan, so like a 89 Civic Wagavan rear diff
Right.
and viscous coupler. And the viscous coupler itself's been rebuilt with different viscosity fluid.
Okay.
Which the viscosity, the higher the number, the thicker it is, the more it becomes more power goes to the rear diff is the easiest way to explain it.
Okay.
And then I have a Speed Factory billet bell housing and a PPG transmission.
Right.
And all of that is really all it takes. And then some mounts, obviously. And,
Right.
And then once you start breaking the stock stuff, you start upgrading. PPG has upgraded parts. They have a hypoid gears, which go in the transfer case itself. Transfer gear. So all of this stuff had to be made to be able to support all the power.
How much does it cost to get like all that stuff, or go from a front-wheel drive to all-wheel drive?
So I guess
At
I
your
forgot
level.
about a driveline and rear axles. You
Yeah.
can do some with some stock stuff, but at the power I made and everything I chose to go with Drive Shaft Shop.
Okay.
So they make rear axles. They make a driveline that you can measure, and they'll make it for you.
Oh, he's moving it?
It looks like, yeah, they're driving out. So.
Oh, okay.
So Drive Shaft Shop makes all the parts drivetrain wise, right?
Okay.
That you can get. So they'll have you measure your driveline where the viscous is, and you can send it to them, and they'll make you a carbon drive shaft. That's what this has, 2 pieces, front and rear. There's multiple companies that make all-wheel drive conversion kits. So rear trailing arms and stuff that have the ability to bolt in, essentially.
Right.
So there's a couple, like I chose FCS race. So that's what I have in the rear of my car.
Right.
And so there's then Hub City, there's S1. There's a lot of companies that basically you could call them up now and order everything you need to convert your front-wheel drive car to all-wheel drive.
Really? And so any Honda, basically?
Pretty much almost any Honda now. Yeah,
Okay.
almost any Honda you can get, yeah.
That's dope. Yeah, the platform has definitely evolved into...
It's evolved a lot. In the last 5 or 6 years, it's gone like pretty crazy, actually, how quick it's gotten.
Yeah.
How fast the advancements in parts have gotten.
Yeah.
And the availability and how available the parts are has just honestly been crazy.
No, it's wild. Yeah, especially from even like 10 years ago. Like it's a lot
Pretty
different.
much, yeah. Like the K is a lot easier to make one an all-wheel drive because the K transmission, all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, all the parts interchange.
Okay.
So you can build a K series all-wheel drive car really easy.
Right.
B series, you got to have a specific all-wheel drive transmission, or you have an all-wheel drive converted. Speed Factory makes an front-wheel drive to all-wheel drive conversion that you can use your old gear set with. If you're not making a lot of power.
Right.
Like if you like have like an Albins dog box or an Albins trans or stock stuff and you want to put it in there, all of it'll work. When like mine at my power, you have to have a PPG. They're the only, as of right now, they're the kind of the only guys out there that make something that's known and reliable.
And you're making how much power now?
So at 2680 and 195, it's about 1550 to the wheels, roughly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That motor looks completely like I haven't seen it in person until yesterday, but I was looking at it. I'm like, damn, even the valve cover looks so like it looks like it's
got a billet valve cover.
Yeah.
Low cash mix
like
billet
lower.
valve cover, but nothing's really. It's crazy. Like it still technically has a stock cast block,
Yeah.
with Darton sleeves in it.
GSR.
GSR block,
Okay.
with Type R crank, BME rods, pistons, and the head itself is really nothing crazy. It still has VTEC, so it drives around on low cam.
Okay.
Most people at this level, they'll switch to a Ferrea or a web rocker of some sort.
Right.
I like to drive the car, and there just doesn't seem to be anything that I'd want to be able to idle. Driving around in a car that has a real big cam in it, like they get really lopey, and like you got to
Chop.
tune around a lot of stuff to get them to run right. So I ended up just keeping VTEC and figuring out how to make it work. Good thing is like GSC Power Division, they're a good friend of mine. They do all the valve train components in the car, so cams, valves, valve springs, retainers, everything. And I've been able to keep the thing together. What I would consider most people just give up and go to what works.
Yeah.
And I just know that every year I gotta, change something in the head, maybe, in terms of like rockers or something like that. And I feel like at the level the car's at, that's something that probably should be done anyway.
Yeah.
You should be going through parts or maintenance and looking at them and stuff. Yeah.
So you never wanted to go Key Series at all? Like it wasn't a
that
thought
was
in your
the
mind?
thing. It's like I was thinking about going K, and then it's like I've learned so much about the motor. I've got a whole wiring harness and an engine harness and everything that just bolts in. It's like going K would be like, you might as well just build another car at that point. And building another car wasn't in the budget. So
yeah, it's a whole different platform basically from B to K Series.
it is. It's like everything's different. Like you can run the same turbo. You can adapt the fuel pump. You can adapt your injectors will go in. Like a lot of stuff would work, but you're literally a completely different engine.
Yeah.
It's faced the wrong way. Intake manifold in the front, turbo in the back.
Right.
B series is turbo in the front, intake manifold in the back towards the firewall.
Yeah.
So completely different location of everything, really.
But does it change the location of the motor if you have an all-wheel drive?
No, all that'd be the same. Yeah.
Okay.
Luckily, all that stuff it's engine mounts that bolt in the same place.
Got
you just
it.
get different mounts for different parts.
Right.
But yeah, pretty much all the same though.
So now, did you have this car? You went 7.7, you said?
Been 771 at 192. Yeah.
At that speed, can you talk about the experience when you're actually going that fast?
It's pretty fun. I mean, that was a race in the finals at TX2K. So I was somehow made it into the finals in a car that was definitely not the fastest car there.
Right.
And the cool thing about stick shift racing is usually it's not the fastest car that makes it in. It's the car that's actually made it every round.
Right.
And it got real lucky, and I ran my race every time, and it was like, that was the finals. And I was like, this is as quick as the car is going to be able to go. It comes out, it shakes the tires hard on the front. I shift second, the guy's still right next to me, and I'm like, I shift third and he goes away, shift fourth, and like I like burst out. Like I kind of like lost my voice at the end of it. So that pass was probably the most like emotional, fun pass I've ever had.
Yeah.
And then it won, and I won like 10 grand, which was super cool. Not as much as building the car, but any kind of money in your pocket after you win is like an awesome thing. So as far as like how that pass went, it was the most exciting pass I've ever had, like by far. Nothing's really going through my head. It's like, all right, make sure you shift. It's just like, once you do it a lot, it kind of goes natural, honestly.
Yeah.
Like once you race a car a lot, it just all kind of becomes smooth and natural and ready.
Right. Are you ever nervous at all when you're like?
Usually like the first pass of the weekend, I'll get a little shivers in, I'll be a little nervous, but the majority of all of it, I'm pretty calm, most of the time, unless something's going wrong, and then like maybe I start getting a little freaked out. But managing a shop, dealing with customers and people, you got to be super patient in general. So I'm pretty patient in that aspect, and I wouldn't say that I get, people get hyped up and they get crazy. They go like, that's not me at all.
Not you at all, right?
Now, after each win, I was hyped up.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, let's go, and like we're gonna go. Like I'd come back and it's like, let's fucking go. So there's always stuff like that. But in general, I'm pretty calm in that aspect, unless it's like a real good race and like if I did something and it was on me, like I get annoyed with myself. Like,
Right.
we're all our worst enemy, our worst critic, right? So we're always harder on ourselves than most people ever are on us, unless it's like
100%.
maybe a boss or someone's like, oh, you need to do this or whatever. But in general, I'm pretty hard on myself in that aspect. If I screwed something up, it's like, man, I shouldn't have done that. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty hard on myself. But in general, that was a pretty fun pass. Yeah.
So now you have the Evo 10.
Correct. I don't
Right.
own the Integra. I don't own the Evo 10.
But you drive
Correct.
the car.
So
to
Extreme
get the
Turbo
record.
Systems, which they make like parts for almost every car out there. Any car turbo, they'll make parts. Anything from Subarus to Evos to think GTRs, R8s, like anything from exhaust, intercooler kits, intakes, like pretty much a lot of stuff,
Anything.
right? So they bought the car back in like 2008,
Okay.
and they were the first to run 9s in it. Then my boss Lucas took it over as a shop. So it's their car, but we built the car. That's why it says ETS on the side of it, right? So we built the car, and then we maintain and we would race the car. So we'd go to 2 or 3 big events a year. We'd bring a full, we'd bring X amount of techs, and we'd have spare motors, transmissions, everything, and we would race the car at a competitive level. And Luke was the first into the 8s in the Evo 10. So same car, first in the 9s, Evo 10, then first in the 8s. And then I took the car over as far as the driver in like 2018 because Lucas wanted to focus on the Evo 8, our Evo 8. And so then it was like we went from like 850s to 820s or 830s to then an 824, 5, and then it was like an 815 or 16, and we're like, man, like we say we're kind of close to 7s, right? But like an 815, an 80 or 79 is actually quite a bit, right?
Right.
So then we fought real hard to get there. At the time, there was another guy. He ran an 815, and he had beat us. He was there, and he had that record for probably about 5 or 6 months. And we came to World Cup, and I think I qualified with like an 815 with an 8 or 9, and he had been an 815 with a 3. So we hadn't got him yet. And so then test and tune on the Monday there, we ran 2 8.0s back to back, 803, 807, and it was actually kind of crazy. Like it had cracked the head and lost all the water, came out of the head. So when that happened, we're like, we just ran an 8.0. Like, what do we do? And we're like, well, we just drained all the water out of the car and took the radiator out, did all the stuff, and basically sent the car down the track with no water in it. Did like 4 passes. It's pretty common now. A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
But sent the car down without any water. We'd basically fire the car up, drive it to the line, put on 2-step, and off we go.
Right.
And we didn't run the 7 that weekend. But TX2K in the next year, I think it was 2020 actually, because it was right when COVID happened. We ended up the last pass of the weekend somehow busted out 794 at like 185 or 6, and we were the first to the 7s with an Evo 10. So it was kind of cool. The 3 different drivers, technically a couple different iterations of the car.
Right.
One same car, first to the 9s, 8s, and 7s. So, yeah. We still have the car. Crazy. Last year, we ended up going a 776 at 189, and it's been a best mile an hour of 192.
Wow.
So, yeah. At the time, we had the fastest Evo in the world for mile an hour in the quarter.
Evo.
Doesn't matter.
Period.
Evo 8, 9, 10. 8, 9, or 10. I think technically there might have been Evo 3 that had higher mile an hour. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100%. But Evo 8, 9, we had higher mile an hour than they did, which was kind of crazy.
10.
In the Evo 10, yeah.
That's the last one I would think to be the fastest.
Yeah, as everyone says, it's not a real Evo.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we ended up doing that, which was super cool. And then this year, we were like, do we really need to race it and put the money into that when we could put the money into something else?
Yeah.
So we ended up not racing it at all this year. So
wow.
Just parked waiting, if we want to race again. So, yeah.
Is the Evo a thing because of the DSMs before? Is it like
I think so, yeah. It was kind of the iteration of Mitsubishi,
Yeah.
Because the 4G63 and the Evo 8.9 is similar to the Evo DSM.
It's just cast iron block.
Cast iron, yeah.
Right.
But DSM and Evo 8.9 are very similar.
Right.
Actually, same valves, valve springs, and all that go in both of them. So.
Right.
Yeah.
So
the Evo 10's completely different engine.
That's what I'm saying. Like that car is like, is it heavy? Is it heavier? I never.
It's a little heavier stock, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so what is it about those cars that makes it like difficult to run fast times with?
It's a completely styled new motor, like a completely new style of motor. Aluminum, block, head, shim bucket style, not rockers.
Right.
And they were made to be efficient. they weren't made to be as good of a race engine as a 4G63. So they come factory with Inconel exhaust valves, and that's not common in anything from the factory in a turbo vehicle. And that car came with them. So there's a lot of like figuring out how to make stuff work, and we just kind of stuck with the car. And you know, we went from blowing a motor every weekend to now the motor will go an entire weekend of racing without a problem. And so we use that as our benchmark to, okay, hey, we can make this do this. Now we can sell this to a customer and build them a car that can run eights. And actually, like, we have another customer that ran 850 in a full street Evo 10. 850 at 163. Daniel. Gorgeous car, full interior, no cage, nothing in it.
What color is the car?
It's white.
Okay. I know there's a red one that's pretty fast.
There's a red one down in California. I think his name's Jared.
Yes.
He's really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our car beat him too. The one customer car, yeah.
Yeah, because there was I interviewed Ange with the Evo.
Edge, yeah. Okay.
Ange, he's from Jersey. He has like a blue Evo. I think he has the Evo 8, but he's claimed to have the world's fastest Evo. I don't know if he basically. I
think he claims the fastest on the street, maybe, or something. Yeah. Call that a small micro wreck. Yeah. I mean, sure. Yeah. I mean, we could put our car on the street too and go fast, but
yeah.
Are you going to claim it's the fastest on the street? Not really. There's some cars out there that people don't even know about that live that nobody knows about. Just because they're posting about it doesn't mean there isn't a faster one out there. But, you know, the car's fast, right? That car's fast. You're not going to, but to say it's the fastest Evo, it's like, is it though?
Yeah.
Could we drive a street? We could drive a car on the street. Like, that customer's car is a street car.
Yeah.
You know, and it's been like 3.3 or 3.4, 60 to 130. Yeah, it's a pretty fast car for a street car, right?
Yeah.
You know, that this guy calls this other guy, you know, street car. So yeah, it's hard to keep cars together that actually, and really finding a good road to be able to do that's difficult too.
Yeah. Put that power down.
Yeah.
100%.
So, yeah.
So what I'm curious about is, I've always wondered, going to these events, there's a lot of people with a lot of crazy builds, right?
Yeah.
A lot of money into these cars. You got trailers and so on. But like, I mean, I don't want to be a pocket watcher, but like, where do you start? Like, how do you get to this level?
That depends. Are you someone that, you know, has built a very good business and you have some money to spare? You probably want to find someone. You decide what kind of car you want. If you're not a tinkerer and you're not a mess with it yourself, probably find out someone in your area, if there is anyone, that is really good with that car.
Okay.
And you probably go to them and you figure out how fast the cars they've messed with are. And then you decide, all right, well, if I want a car faster than what they've done, it might be really difficult to go to them because they've never been there, right?
Right.
So you probably want to find a very established shop that has done it, right? That has built a car fast, the car that you want to race, right? Or if you're someone who's a real good mechanic and you want to tinker with your own stuff, then you just start tinkering with it yourself.
Right.
And then you start building it. So, you know, over the years, you'll learn a lot of stuff that like took years for other people to learn. And I think that knowledge that you have, let's call it knowledge that you've learned the hard way, is usually the best knowledge in terms of building anything car-wise. Because you're like, well, I'll never make that mistake again.
Right.
So you got two options. If you've got the money, you go to a shop that can do it. If you don't have the money, but you're a real good tinkerer, then you start tinkering with stuff yourself and you learn how to build it and you go from there.
Right.
If you've got friends that build cars and they're willing to help you out, then that's also awesome, you know. But it's hard to find that sometimes. That, you know, as we get older, our time's a little more valuable. So it's like a lot of people don't want to spend as much time. Like, as I'm getting older, like my drive from 10 years ago isn't quite the same as working on the car.
Yeah.
You know, I've been in the shops in 2-3 in the morning before. And like now I'm like, yeah, about 11 to 12, unless I like have to go somewhere. Like I'm like, yeah, we're good tonight, you know?
Yeah.
So that, you got to have that drive. And usually the younger you are, the more drive you seem to have.
That's true.
Or if you're like, want to beat someone real bad, you have big drive there too. So
right.
I would, like I said, yeah, that's my best recommendation, not because I work for a shop and that's what we do, but because I've seen so many people and customers and friends spend 3 times as much money because they went somewhere that was cheaper, that really didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
And they end up costing you way more on the very end. And that's a bigger problem that happens more than anything, to be honest.
Yeah.
People go to a shop that doesn't know what they're doing. They look like they know what they're doing. They've got this big, you know, front of a shop that just looks like they're baller
spending money
and
on marketing. Yeah.
And they're really not that good.
Yeah.
That happens more in every I don't care what platform it is, that happens all the time. And that's the sad part, is these people spend all this money and like when we build a motor and we put a car together, we tune it, we build it, we assembled it, we'll guarantee the car to make X amount of power and survive for X amount of time.
Right.
Obviously, if it's a 1,500 horse drag car, we can't guarantee that it's going to survive.
Right.
We usually will go to the track
reliable.
and we'll make sure it at least goes down the track and runs at some sort of a number, and we'll kind of guarantee that. But, you know, our street car stuff, we build 600, 700, 800 horse street cars, and I wouldn't say there's a warranty. There is a written warranty of some sort.
Yeah.
That there isn't a written warranty that I would say. But like if I built a car and this customer drove down the street and it chucked a rod down the street, pretty much betting we're taking care of it sight unseen without any without if it blows up on the dyno in our hands, customers, I'll call them and say, hey, it blew up, but guess what? We're taking care of it. This is why. Coming to us does this. So if you go to a shop that they're not going to help you out, if they built everything, they assembled it, they built it, they tuned the car, they did everything, and it broke, and they're like, oh man, it's going to cost this much to fix it. That's not the shop you want to be at.
Yeah, I've heard, especially in New York.
Yeah,
it's pretty common.
They probably got a really good deal because it's very difficult to make a true living building cars.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the cost of the parts, there's not a big margin in them.
Right.
For one, two, there isn't a. You can have great parts from all these manufacturers, and something can still be off and fail.
Right.
It's nothing to do with anything you've done. So we call that Darwin, just happens.
Yeah.
So when we build cars, it's like that 0.001% failure rate that company had failed on us. That happens, and there's no way around that. So you as a shop have to have the capital to be able to overcome something like that. There's no doubt that like you can build motors very cheap, but if you're building motors as a shop and you're trying to supply everyone with something like that to your customers and stuff, and if you can't take care of it, as if you built the whole car and you can't afford that car, if something happens in your hands, you probably shouldn't be building a car.
Right.
For customers, yeah.
So now on the topic of being cheap or building for cheap,
yeah,
you have a Honda.
Yeah,
right?
we talked about, we totally blew over the conversation of what it costs to build this, huh?
I mean, but it's cool.
Did,
It's gonna come up again. I had to ask.
Yeah, so it hurt. I looked up kind of everything on this car, what it would cost in about 2021 to duplicate the car. It was over $100,000 in parts.
Over $100,000 to build the world's fastest Integra.
Yeah. I mean, if you had a shop build it, if like someone wanted to duplicate this car, it'd be $150,000 to build as a shop. Probably.
Everything, motor, transmission.
Yeah, just one of them though, not doubles.
Okay.
Yeah, one.
Just one.
Yeah. So like you start adding parts, 12, 13, 14, 15 grand in an entire long block, right?
Yeah.
Cool. You're there. Transmission, bell housing, transfer case, rear diff, all-wheel drive conversion, rear axles, front axles, all this stuff, 30 grand. 30, 35 grand minimum.
Wow.
Turbo kit, intercooler kit, fuel system, clutch, random stuff. 20 to 30 grand, right? You got $3,800, $4,000 turbo, right? Got a manifold, it's $1,500 to $2,000. You got an intercooler, it's $800 to $1,500. You start adding all these things together, 2 sets of 2,600cc injectors, three grand, right?
Yeah.
8 injectors, $3 grand. ECU. So I have a Motec M1 in my car. It's very.
Oh, you're running Motec?
Yeah, correct. Motec M1. So it's not a lot of people are switching to it these days, but I've had it since 16, and it wasn't a very common thing in the Hondas back then.
Right.
But you add ECU, package, logging, wiring harness, PDM, keypad, dash, 15, 20 grand.
Damn.
Right? Cool. Wheels, tires. This car still has stock brakes, right? Stock front GSR brakes, right? But you add wheels and tires, I mean, you're $5 grand in wheels and tires.
Yeah.
So like we can just add up a lot of little things that I just off my head remembered, and we're like 80 grand already. Then you think of all these little things you don't think about. Fuel system fittings, lines, just little sensors like, manifold, map sensor, oil pressure sensor, coolant pressure sensor, crankcase pressure sensor, cam crank sensor. You start adding all these things up. These sensors are $200 a piece now. So you're $2 grand, $2,500, $3 grand in sensors real quick too. So you really add it up, and it's like, you really want a car at that level, you probably should have all these things because you can actually monitor and see everything that you've got going on.
Right.
And I think a lot of people just like, I was that guy back when I was a kid. I was like, oh, I don't need all that stuff. Like if it's good, if it's broken, it's broken. Nobody needs a coolant pressure sensor.
Yeah.
It's gonna, if it's got coolant pressure, it's gone. Well, till I torched a head once because coolant pressure went through the roof when they blew a head gasket.
Wow.
Well, that's one of those times that, it's like, well, let's not do that. So you really add it all together. A car at this level is very expensive,
Right.
and I built this car I've had this car since '06, completely stock, and I didn't build it to the level it is in 1 year.
Right.
I built it over 10 years of just improving the car every year, little bits at a time, 10, 20 grand a year is kind of what my budget is to be able to throw out the car.
Okay.
Which, is, it's a lot still, you
Yeah.
know? And luckily being at the shop, I get parts at a really good deal, but
Right.
like people think that there's 50% margin in parts. I'm like, you're lucky if there's 15% margin in parts. And certain stuff, like, they don't care. It costs what it costs. And
Right.
then that, that is what it is. So yeah, it helps, but you also, like, people's like, oh, you're sponsored, this and that. And like, yeah, I am. But I had to build the car. I had to do something. I had to become somebody with the car for anyone to even care.
Yep.
You don't go to a shop and say, hey, I want you guys to sponsor me as a brand new customer. Like, it doesn't happen. You
Yeah.
spend the money, they build your car, you go through that, then we'll talk about sponsoring and helping you out.
That is
and
a
so,
fact.
I was approached by a couple of companies, and they helped me out a lot, but stuff's still expensive,
Yeah.
you know?
You still had to spend the money to get there.
You have to spend the money and you have to do a lot more. I mean, the car scene's changed a little compared
Yeah.
to what it was 10, 12, 13 years ago.
Right.
From what I've been, there's a lot less racers these days, at least on our side of the USA. I don't know what it's like on this side.
What do you mean by there's a lot less racers?
I feel like there's not as many people going out to races and racing, like Import Face Off or events like that.
Okay.
Like,
At
there's-
events you mean?
At
not like street
events,
racing.
yeah.
Okay.
There's way more car show people.
Mm.
That younger generation, in my eyes, is all about that car show. It is cheaper to build a show car to an extent. Obviously, you can spend $100,000 on building the most coolest car show ever.
Yeah.
A car, and it has all the right stuff that'll go fast, right? But it is technically a car show because it goes to shows. But
Right.
that's what I feel like. It's not how it used to be. I remember going to Honda Tech meets in like 07, 08, and there'd be 400 or 500 cars parked at a whole Walmart parking lot. Like, I don't see the Honda Tech meet like that anymore.
Yeah.
I do see stance meets like that though, and that's one thing that wasn't cool back in. Remember the back in, like, I think probably sometime around 2012, 13, 14. You saw the rusted hood fade, the rusted hood and the slammed Hondas
I
with
remember
crazy.
the rusted hood.
You remember that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually
that was a
do.
thing.
It didn't last very long.
Didn't
though.
last very long, but that started, I feel like, that part. So that stuff is, I remember that, So, and up where we live, there's just not a lot of people who go to racing. I mean, like Import Face Off, like, I think they do great at racing, being able to, a place for us to go race and have some sort of payouts and stuff.
Right.
Because there isn't any other series around us that really does that for imports, that is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of V8 little races and stuff, and he said he's seeing a decline, Cliff's the owner, he's seeing a decline in people going racing. Even though he has payouts, he says the people care about two-step competitions.
Yeah.
They care about the low
Limbo.
limbo.
Limbos, yeah.
And that's the thing. He said they sell out all the car show and all of that in a heartbeat. So, I think it's shifting a little. The people aren't racing as much at a certain level, right?
Right.
Obviously here this weekend, this is the top 1% of all the imports in the entire, and some of the domestics, the entire USA, of how fast they are.
Right.
Obviously, where they're not all like NHRA Pro Med or Top Fuel stuff like that. For what all these cars are, they're all the fastest in what they do.
Right.
And it's still very big here, and people love to watch the racing too.
Yeah.
And then most of the people you will see here, you will see a lot of Latin American culture people.
Mhm.
I'm Latin American, and you see a lot of Islanders,
Yeah.
Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, like all, like Bahamas, like there's tons. And I think it's like people fly here from all over, and I talk to every year, and it's like we don't get that where we're at.
Yeah.
Northwest. Like no one's like, oh, let's go fly to Northwest and watch a race. It doesn't happen. But people fly from all over to watch this race, and that's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to ask you before when you were talking about the Evos and the Integra. Between the two, 4G63 and the B Series, what do you think is better?
I knew that question was coming.
I have to hear from the world record.
So you probably spend more money building an all-wheel drive Honda than you would building an Evo, in terms of, like, I have to buy a transfer case. I have to do a bill. I spend $5-6 grand on a transfer case, right?
Okay.
You could do that. You could go sevens on a stock transfer case in an Evo. So you spend a little more in certain aspects. I have to do a billet bell housing. I have to do all this stuff that you don't need on an Evo, right? But the Evos are very difficult to get to work because they are a true 50-50 all-wheel drive car. They are all-wheel drive, right? This is a all-wheel drive car with a viscous.
Can you explain what that is?
So this viscous coupler, so it basically, someone will probably tell me I'm wrong or whatever, but once you overpower the viscous, it doesn't allow any more power to go to the rear. And the rest of the power goes to the front.
Okay.
Once you overpower the viscous fluid in there, it won't let you put more power to the rear. So it acts like it's rear-wheel drive assist depending on the fluid you have in it. While an Evo has a center differential that controls front to rear power.
Front to rear, right.
So that's what makes an Evo so difficult to drag race. It's because you can't spin the tires. Like I can launch this car and the front tires will blow loose and they'll have a 25 mile an hour burnout and the rear will just be solid and straight. The Evo, if you blow the front tires loose, it's then going to decide, you know what, we're going to send this power back to the rear. And then you have this porpoising. That's why a lot of Evos struggle to get off the line.
Yeah.
So the all-wheel drive system in the Evo for rally and everything about it, definitely better than the viscous stuff for sure.
Right.
But in terms of drag racing, the viscous and everything, how it works is a lot nicer. And then Honda guys have been obviously going fast front-wheel drive for years. You give them 300 horse, 400 horse to the rear tires, of course we're going to go fast.
Yeah.
So right now, the Hondas have already gone 6s in half the time that it took Evos to go 7s. All-wheel drive, like Speed Factories. Already been 6s, all-wheel drive. Now, the DSM they've gone 6s before, right? Yeah. They're very similar. They work a little better than Evos. They weren't built as a rally car. Like an Evo was technically built as a rally car.
Right.
And the suspension geometry, a lot of stuff like that's very different than what the DSM is. The DSM has really long trailing arms in the rear that kind of help a little bit there. So there's a lot of little things, but in the grand scheme of it, the DSM's a better drag car, I would say.
Okay.
Than the Evo 8, 9, or 10 for sure. And then I still think the Honda, to an extent, can definitely be a little bit better of a drag car than both. So if we were talking about building a car and you wanted something awesome, an 800 horse Honda all-wheel drive would be real fun, and you could do it with a lot of stock parts. You could do it with a lot of stock parts, and an Evo is still a 32 or 300 pound car. 4 doors, it's not a light car. So Evos have their place. They're 600 horse stock, 600 horse, 600 wheel Evo on the street. That's a lot of fun, and you can just enjoy it. You want to get greedy 800, 900,000. It's like none of them survive there for a long time.
Right.
Not if you're really hard on it, Yeah. And there's a lot of people out there who really aren't they're like, oh, we're just going to send it every pass. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to have a car running very soon,
Right.
So I didn't really answer that question, did I?
You did.
I was trying to think. I'm like, no, I kind of beat around it. And
if you want a Honda that, in terms of Honda, 800, it's
an 800 wheel all-wheel drive Honda is going to mess a lot of cars up everywhere.
Right.
And it's a lot of fun. Which one to build is all what you like.
Right.
If you like Evos, there's some cool parts about Evos. If you like Hondas, there's cool parts about Hondas too. So there's difference of all of them. And the 4G63 is still one of the best 4-cylinder motors ever produced.
What you said one of. So that was the next question.
Yeah.
What do you think are the top 3 4-cylinder engines?
I heard this one. Actually, wasn't it Dan Rue who talked about this? Yeah.
But he didn't really. He has a GTR.
GTR, yeah. So he doesn't really know.
Right. He knows about the SR20, but
if we go off of look at the cars that have been 5s in the quarter, it's been a K series that's been 5s in the quarter. That's fast, right? That K series is definitely one of the top 5 motors. I think 4G63 is up there too in the top 5 motors for sure. 4G63.
You got 5 for me.
I got 5. Yeah. 4G63 is 1. We want to really talk about it. The Ecotec 4-cylinder motor has been 5s also.
Okay.
So that, there's not a lot of them out there that do stuff, but the very top motors, that car's been 5s. I think the B series motor it's got to be a top 5 motor out there. Yeah. 4G63, Ecotec, K series, B series. What would be the other one that would be up there?
You got one more, no? It's top 5?
Huh?
It's top 5?
That's 4. Did I do 4
You said
or 5?
Yeah, I think that was 4, right? Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, K series, B series, 4G63, Ecotec. No, there's one more. What it is, though, I can't remember.
What about a Toyota? 4. Any Toyota motors?
Toyota has some cool motors.
Corollas?
Yeah. They have some cool engines. 3S GT is a really cool motor. We didn't get a lot of them here in the USA.
Yeah.
You know, all the MR2s you see out there are all K-swapped.
Yeah.
Instead of, because K-swap, it's a really good motor. Like
Right.
that motor's really good. I think B-Series, for being a motor that came out of, 1989 or 1991, or like, that's pretty impressive motor still.
Yeah.
SR20. That's a really cool,
SR20.
really cool 4-cylinder motor. Yeah. Yeah. So those would be my top 5 in no particular order. We'll just say those are the top 5 coolest 4-cylinder motors out there. Definitely a SR20. Like, I think those guys, there's a Mazworks has built some really cool SR20 motors. They've got a really fast, almost a 5-second SR20 now.
Wow.
Almost, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 seconds is wild, dude.
Yeah. No, retarded. Stupid. Stupid.
That is wild.
Yeah. Stupid. Yeah.
So you have stock front, and you're not wide body on the front of this
no
car,
wide body.
right?
Yeah.
Can you explain that? Can you talk about that a little bit?
All of that came from when I was doing half-mile stuff.
Okay.
So this car used to have a big diffuser on the rear. It doesn't have that anymore.
Oh.
Someone ran it over last year at their event,
Oh,
and I never
damn.
put it back on. But I built a whole under tray under the car.
Okay.
To keep this thing stable at 200 miles an hour,
Right.
right? Like, you'd never think of a Honda being very stable going down the track, right? So at 200 miles an hour. So I went with the frontal area and the streamline effect. So if you look at Bonneville, the cars that go really fast look like arrows.
Yeah, aerodynamic, yeah.
And I did some calculations at one point that if I had a wide front end like most Hondas do, the actual frontal area, I would need like an extra 80 horsepower to maintain 200 miles an hour than my car with a stock front end. So I decided that I didn't want to change any of that. I didn't also like the look of the wide front end with the big wide front tire and all that stuff. So I just kept the thing a stock front end the whole time.
Yeah.
And I've cut holes in it. I've learned the hard way. Like, you have a big intercooler. Air's got to come in. When air comes in, it's got to find a way out fast.
Yeah.
And if it comes in fast and you have an under tray that, like, a flat bottom or something, it has to find a way out.
Right.
And it actually blew the entire under tray off at 180 miles an hour. It didn't blow it off, but it broke it down.
Wow.
And so I was like, well, air's coming in. It has to find a way out. That's also why I have a vent in the hood. Evos come factory with vents in the hood.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's an aerodynamic thing, and it's get heat out.
Right.
And so mine was to get the air out fast. So air comes in, it goes out fast. And I've got pictures of my car at like 200 miles an hour. The car drops altogether about an inch and a half. Yeah.
Because of the air not escaping and pushing the car down?
Not that, but the amount of downforce it was creating at 200 miles an hour at the time,
Wow.
it would actually suck the car down a little. I don't have the numbers. I wish I did, but I've got stationary pictures, same day, and I've kind of got them like middle of the way. And at the time, like, the suspension was a little soft, so
Yeah.
it was actually on the bump stops. Yeah, because the actual aerodynamic was pushing the car so far down that it was overcoming the springs and everything that were in it. So I wish I could have got the car in a wind tunnel, honestly. That would have been so cool to see. But we don't have any wind tunnels that are easy accessible where I'm located. So sadly, I would have loved to see what the aerodynamic drag of the whole car was at the time.
Right.
Yeah, but I never did. So that's why I kept the front end. And then now I don't like the front end, the wide front end look. Because if you ever see a Honda with a wide front end, normal street tires, the tire's 6 inches in.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't look good.
For us, for the stance guys, you gotta be flush with the fenders.
So like I have like a very flush fitment all around. Like I have 15 by 7s in the rear, 15 by 8s in the front. It's functional form, looks good.
Right.
I bolt the street tires on it. They fit flush. I don't have to. I just have spacers. Put spacers on, and that's all I got to do. And then I go racing.
Would a wider tire give you faster or lower times?
I would like to think a wider tire in the front would help with the ET. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely think it would for sure.
And then what about trap speeds?
I don't know. I feel like if you can get more power down sooner, the trap speed should go up.
Right.
But my car, as of right now, it's in the top 5 fastest all-wheel drive Hondas mile an hour wise. Been 195. There's only 2 people that have been faster at right now. Ostrom and Speed Factory. I'm assuming that's going to change by this weekend. I think there's 2 or 3 cars that should go 200, right?
Right.
So yeah, like I've been the fastest, and it's all stock. So I do think it would help the ET for sure.
Right.
I think the mile an hour might technically suffer a little bit, but then you're going to put power down sooner, so I don't think it would suffer at all.
It wouldn't suffer.
I think it would only be better for the car. But then I'd have to redo the whole car, get it to fit, like get this big tire to fit. This is a 15 by 8 on the front, right?
Okay.
And when all these guys are running 13 by 11s, that's a lot. So you have a lot more contact patch for sure. I might break more stuff too. So maybe more front power is not what I want, you know?
No, 100%.
So, but I do think it would go quicker and faster with a bigger tire, yeah. But am I going to do it? Probably not.
So what I love about this car is that you can, like, if you took the stickers off, you took the wing off, and you have a velocity stack on the front, right?
I do have velocity stack,
So
yeah.
if you took that off, I feel like it would look like...
It would look very stock.
Yeah,
it's
but it's like a 1,400
crazy.
horsepower, right?
Yeah,
1,500 horsepower
1,500,
car,
yeah.
And the world's fastest car.
Yeah.
So I noticed that you, well, when we spoke, you mentioned a lot of Starbucks runs.
Yeah, I honestly drive this car a lot. Like as at the level of what the car is, nobody else drives their car like this. Nobody.
With the amount of power and what it's, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even matter because when I'm out driving it, I'm not ripping on it. I'm just driving it because I enjoy cruising the car. And the car is actually, I've driven a couple friends in it, and they're like, this is not anything that what I expected in this car. Like it's a lot more tame. It drives pretty good, like for what it is. I drive the car on methanol all the time, so just drive it around. And
meth?
Yeah, on meth. Oh yeah, straight methanol all the time.
So you don't have any other cars in your fleet, or?
I do. Yeah, I have a '99 CRV.
Okay.
Which is
that the daily?
That's the daily, yeah.
Okay.
And I have a '94 Mitsubishi Pajero, right-hand drive, 2.8 liter turbo diesel, manual 5-speed. Yeah, it's a cool little car. Yeah, it's super cool. Yeah.
So this is the build.
This is the build. Yeah. No kids, no wife. It's easy to spend money on a car at that point.
So if there was any other car you can build, because you're obviously 4-cylinder.
I knew this would come too.
I had to ask you, man, because you're a 4-cylinder guy, right? So if there's any other car you could build, what would it be? Would you go for a 6-cylinder, V8, rotary?
I want something fast.
You want something fast?
I'd have to be something faster and more reliable. So 6-cylinder and up, you know. And honestly, I look at like the new Coyote, the Coyote platform, the Mustangs, how fast they're going with very limited stuff. Like limited meaning like nothing super crazy. You know, I think a Mustang would be pretty cool to build. And like so many people, like the platform's there. The program's there. It's easy to do.
Right.
So I'd probably build a Mustang of some sort, you know.
Really?
As weird as it sounds, yeah.
It's so opposite of what I thought you would have said.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when you get older, we want to work on shit less, right?
Yes, that's
so
true.
then now obviously every car takes a certain amount at every level, right?
Right.
But a 7-second stick shift or a 7-second Mustang is not that difficult to build these days. Might cost, and it's going to cost money.
Yeah.
But like, it's not that difficult to build. In terms of like getting it to work, the program's there, the platform's there. It's all easy in that aspect to do.
Is that because we're already in the States though? You think?
Yeah, I mean, even down in Brazil, they've got these GM-based 6-cylinder inline 6-cylinder cars running low 7 stick shift. Like we never got these cars, and these guys are going really fast. Stick shift cars, yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, not because we're in the States, just because that platform, everything works, and a lot of people have built them and are building them. So they're really easy to get to go fast.
Wow.
For sure, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I said Mustang, yeah.
Yeah, I was not expecting
not what you're expecting, huh?
No, I like Mustangs though.
I mean, I'd build an Evo too. Like Evo would be fun, but
Yeah.
like I'd want that as like a fast, fun daily driver because they're real fun at 600-700 horse and
Right.
pretty reliable there. Yeah, done right, they're reliable. Yeah.
They definitely are. They definitely are
Yeah.
reliable for sure. Now you mentioned that you would Coyote, right? Coyote platform stick shift they're doing in Brazil. This is stick. This is stick also, right?
Yep,
It's manual.
yeah,
So
it's
what
a
made
4-speed.
you keep it a manual rather than?
You don't have any options in the Honda to do anything.
You don't have
with
any
it.
options.
Not the B series. Like you
Okay.
don't have an auto that works fast.
Oh.
And then there
okay.
isn't anything all-wheel drive as of yet that's sequential that will do everything. So you're pretty much stuck with a clutch. You got to learn how to drive it eventually. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really
It's
impressive.
not like the
that you-
BMW supermarket that's all DCT.
Yeah.
You don't have that option with these cars. Yeah. These are early 90s cars set up around that. So you don't have that luxury.
at all.
No.
What if it was a K series?
K series you'd have sequential option, but not an auto. Not in the transverse style how they come. Yeah, you can do a sequential, but you're not going to get an auto or a DCT or anything like that. You could probably fit like one of those DCTs out of an RS3 and you could probably figure out how to make it work, but then it's a lot to do, to make something work like that. So
Damn, dude.
We don't have that option. Yeah,
This
it's
guy's
really
a driver.
easy. All these guys with newer BMWs, all-wheel drive, DCT, like, or not all of them are DCT. They got autos, the ZF or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Like that's why those cars have progressed and gotten so fast so soon, is because the transmissions work so well. You know, just look at like, you know, Audi R8s and Nissan GTRs and all the DCTs there. Like how fast those cars have gotten in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Transmission. Once you have the parts that work and the ECU to control it and the parts to survive, you can make it happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, what are you looking to do? What's next for you in terms of today as well at the event?
Yeah, so we're going to do probably round 1 qualifying here, I'd guess, in about an hour or so. You know, I had to add some weight to the car. I added about 80 pounds to the car.
Really?
And I had to go smaller turbo. So instead of a okay, I just wanted to make sure they weren't like calling my class or something.
Cool.
So I want to go fast in qualifying. I want to do a good time. I want to
Okay.
be in the top 7 or 8 cars down the track, you know, as far as the speed and ET. And then, you know, I never really have a car that I would consider at the top of the class that can actually win.
Right.
I've just been really lucky to make it certain places with cars that the
Yeah.
Evo 10 and this car. This is probably the first time I feel like if everything works, the car will be in the top 5 and has a really good chance at racing and winning. And I actually really want to win.
Yeah.
Just because it would be really stupid to be able to win 2 big events in 1 year.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like all about it, but I also know that like that's a very difficult thing to do. Luck always has to be on your side. You know, there's a lot of little things that are hard to do, but you know, there's 32 cars, 32 car field. So there's a lot of rounds. There's a lot of things that happen. And this weather is super cold this year. The track's really hard to get the temperature up. So there's a lot of little things that are going to be very difficult to make happen. So I would say like if I could qualify in the top 5 in this class in Super Street and then be a real good contender, that's what my goal is this weekend. Yeah.
That is dope, man. I actually haven't seen the car run yet.
Yeah.
You didn't do a test pass yesterday?
I did not.
I thought you were. I saw on Instagram.
I was up in the air. Like and then I decided no, because I kept watching cars going down the track and the track just didn't look very good because I think it was first time.
Yeah.
Super cold. It was windy all day. The track was actually colder yesterday than it is today.
It was, dude,
yeah.
it was cold
the wind,
yesterday.
like
the wind was like,
wind adds like or subtracts like 20 degrees when it's 5 mile an hour. I swear. Yeah.
Dude, me and
just like the camera's gonna add 10 pounds to me somewhere.
I
Yeah.
definitely added 10 pounds. We went to Walmart yesterday to get some shiesties. We had to, you know what I'm saying? The weather was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, today is a little bit better. It's not as windy.
Yeah,
So-
it's not as much wind. I think it's gonna be a little nicer of a day today for
Yeah.
sure. So I'm hoping that the track works. What the updates and stuff that I've done cooperate and the car doesn't break. If
Awesome.
it breaks, I've got a couple of parts put back if I break certain parts. So
All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your
Yeah,
time. But I really appreciate you.
No, I
for
appreciate
doing
you,
this.
man.
I
Thank
know we've
you.
been talking. I'm
Yeah.
glad I actually finally got to sit
yeah,
with you.
you too, man.
And I
I'm
haven't had
excited.
too many Honda guys on the platform because, or on the podcast because, I don't know. I don't really go to
You don't
Honda
want to
street racing
associate
anymore.
yourself with us lower Honda
No,
guys.
it's not
I'm
even
just-
that. No, it's not even
I'm
that. I
just
just-
messing with you. Yeah. No, trust me. Hondas wouldn't be like the first person that I'd be like, oh, let me go talk to this Honda guy.
No, it's not even that. It's just like I haven't been in the Honda street racing scene at all lately.
Yeah, well,
so I
I'm
don't
not
really know people
into
like that.
much of the Honda street racing scene, but there
Right.
are some points. You know, I see it's a big
Yeah.
scene. You
It
know,
is, yeah.
and just not where we're at. You know,
Right.
not to the level that these guys on the East Coast do. Like I actually think it'd be really fun to take the car out to an event like that, or
That'd be so dope.
in Mexico, right?
Yeah.
But I also hear that like it'd be one of those things that like a lot of people know this car, so it's like it shows up. It's like no one might.
No one's gonna-
There might
no one's
not be
gonna run you,
anyone who
bro.
wants to race it.
Yeah.
You know what? The way I told, like Sonic was telling me, he's like, nah, we'll just post out there that, you know, we got this car to race, and then no one will know what it is, and you show up with yours, and he's like, they're gonna hate it. That's what I've been told. So, yeah,
Dude, that'd be so dope.
I'd have to be on the East Coast again for a long time.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
The
yeah.
car would have to sit somewhere around here, but maybe someday. Probably not, but we can dream.
Well, much success.
Yeah,
much
man,
success to
appreciate
you
it.
and your business as
Thank
well.
you for having me. Yeah, it's not my business. I just manage it, but I treat it like it is mine. So.
Right. Well, the shop as well.
Yeah, thank you.
So, can you tell the viewers where to find you?
Yeah, so easy enough. English Racing is the shop. Spelling last name English, just like the language. And Gringotegra is my Instagram. So Gringo, and then not Integra, it's Tegra, Tegra.
Yeah.
And I have a Facebook page, an Instagram page, and I have a merch merch that we'll have here this weekend.
Oh, dope.
So yeah, you can
Looks
get it
good.
all there. Yeah, this is an old one. This is from last year or 2 years ago. I did it. It says 216, world's fastest Integra on the back, which technically I can claim back then
Yeah.
because no Integra had ever been faster. But now I can claim the quickest and fastest in the quarter mile. So.
Tokyo shit.
Yeah, exactly. Talk shit. There's gonna be a lot of shit talkers, and there might be some people like, nah, he's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll
Nah,
find
super
out.
humble.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Gotta kind of have to be these days.
Yeah, you definitely have to. 100%.
When you come off too shit talking, it's like yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Happens a lot in New York.
It does. Well, that's what I've noticed. It's a cultural thing.
Cultural thing, yeah.
Yeah, that top right hand of the USA they're a lot different than us on the West Coast. It seems like. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. All right. Well,
Cool,
there
man.
you guys have it.
Thank you.
Until next time, guys, make sure you guys like, share, comment, and subscribe. And also make sure you guys listening on all streaming platforms. And until next time, guys, catch you on the next one. Peace.
Appreciate it. Thank you.